Fun fact, we just did some background research and I have figured out the 1,400 ton CWD machine is the equivalent of 3 Boeing 747 airplanes. Wow. I should share something very exciting before we start getting into the topic. This is actually our 100th podcast episode.
Nice.
So yeah, we've been recording for since mid-2021, right?
Yeah, COVID kind of lockdown hobby that's really grown into something of its own, which is absolutely amazing to share it with you, by the way, Kit.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So to our audience, we've got Kit Sidwell from Surflakes joining us today. So I guess a general question we ask all of our guests before we get into the topic: who is someone that I guess you look up to, like admire, respect? So it's sort of like your hero in a way,
Ooh, well, I mean, it's a hard one because probably in different fields I have different heroes. Like it'd be my surf hero. Surfers. My engineering hero. There would be a different answer. So. But I've got to say Occhi.
Yep.
Obviously Occhi's fronting our Surflakes, and getting to know him has been very, very cool. He's a great guy, and he's just got that sort of enigma about him, and it's great. It's one of the perks of the job is to be rubbing shoulders with guys like that, and seeing the pros absolutely ripping in our pool is just one of the most rewarding bits, really. So as a surf hero, 100%.
And am I right in saying one of the waves is even named after Occhi? I've heard like the term Occhi's right being used before.
Absolutely. If you want the backstory, I mean, so, he came on board as our ambassador and was super excited about it. And one of the things we wanted to do was show or demonstrate that we can design a wave. A customer of ours, if you want a custom wave, we can do it. And so we did that with Occhi. And so basically how it works, obviously he didn't engineer the wave, but he designed how he wants that wave to break. And then, we would go off and do some engineering and then present it, and we'd tweak it and go iterate again until the wave. And we're all doing this with very high-powered, CFD computer modeling. Through a consultant of ours who's very good. And so he actually designed that wave, and we engineered it for him. So it's called Occhi's Peak. It's a left and a right.
Wow.
It's pretty much symmetrical left and right hand break, and it's my favorite wave in the pool.
Yep.
They're all great, but that one in particular, it's just it's a high performance wave. It's not death defying or anything. But it's fast, and you've got to be quick, and it's challenging, and a great barrel and a few turns, and it's really
cool. I suppose for our audience who are a mix of both engineers, people who love science, and also for this one particularly will be surfers. Just I guess, can you explain, like you're the lead mechanical and R&D engineer, I believe, for Surflakes. What is Surflakes as like an elevator pitch, and what do you actually do in Surflakes? I've read a bit of your backstory, but I'd love to hear it from the man himself.
Yeah. Okay, so Surflakes, we're a technology company based on Gold Coast, Australia. So we have, over the last, I've been involved upwards of 8 years, probably close to 9-10 years. I'd have to probably 9 years. We've developed a large man-made lake for surfing, so full-size ocean-like surfing waves. And so it's Aaron Travis is our founder and CEO, and he was the one with the big bright idea. And the quick story that he tells is he was skipping rocks with his kids and throwing bigger and bigger rocks and making big splashes, and showing off and watching the little waves peel across the shore. And this, as the story goes, it's like, wow, how big a rock do you need? So I think we found out how big a rock we need.
It's a pretty big rock in the end.
How Surflakes works is exactly like a rock being dropped in the middle of a lake. We just drop it repeatedly, one after another, and use the wave action to bounce it back up again. So it's like plunging a rock many times, not just one splash. So
because like where I first like sort of saw that was in like there was a Create magazine that came through on the Engineers Australia, and that literally like that statement was made of it, someone had an inspiration, you know, the owner skimming rocks with his kid. What was like the turning point where you actually realized, oh crap, we figured it out, like we've taken a concept of skimming rocks and we have figured out the technology and engineering that enables that to happen? Like what was that moment like, and what was the first prototype looking like?
Well, I have to, you know, tell his stories because he did, you know, marinate this for a while before anyone else was involved. It was an idea, I believe, was ticking around in his head for quite some time, and you know, until he just went, you know what, I've got to act on this and make it happen. So I've seen video and photos of backyard pools, you know, literally, you know, dropping different shaped things into backyard pools with his daughter helping him out, you know, pulling a rope to pull it up and then letting it go and all that kind of stuff. So that's the early prototyping, just to, you know, get over the hurdle of what happens if you do this. And from there, he did a hand-driven and sort of a knee-deep lake, you know, so you're standing, being the machine yourself, plunging it up and down. And then at that point was when I became involved, and Aaron was, you know, he's an engineer himself, but you need, you know, several different disciplines of engineer. You need a whole team of people really to deliver a project like this. So he looked around within his personal contacts to who he knew in the engineering space, and who he found, and the company that was the company that I was working for at the time. And I, you know, right place at the right time. I got very, very lucky. I'm aware of how lucky I am to be put in front of that. And so that was where I came in, and we began automated prototyping. So prototyping of a machine that was actually automated, not hand-driven. Mm-hmm. And so we developed what we call the 1 to 10 scale. Now, it's not a tenth of the size lake, it's a tenth of the size wave. So, you know, it was a bit under knee-high, sort of an ankle-high wave with that one, but it was a fully automated prototype. And then we upgraded that to make about knee-high waves, and then we did you know, different configurations of it, and more prototypes, and then the big jump to the very large prototype that you see in my background here.
In the background, definitely appreciate the background. That's going to look really nice when you know, you're discussing that to the audience point of view. That's brilliant, because like one of the things with Surflakes is if we look at how wave pool technology works, right, you've got sort of, I classify it between three categories. You've got the pneumatic case-on type system, which is using air to create waves and sequences. You've got the displacement type, like using hydrofoils and pistons, like we're seeing at Kelly's Park and the new Urban Surf or Wave Garden, to be specific. And you've also got like the sort of stationary, like the flow riders, which aren't really a wave pool at all, but it's sort of good fun. What I see with Surflakes is you're combining the mechanical and the pneumatic system together to say, well, yes, there is an aspect of pneumatics that might not be efficient, but what I can see you have done has created this like pool that's creating 5 waves at once. So you're getting that efficiency back through that, rather than saying we can only create 1 or 2 waves at once, which is what most pneumatics parks can do. Look, in no way is that to say that theirs is less better than what yous have got. Everything has its benefits and its advantages and disadvantages, but that's just what blows my mind is you've used both mechanical and pneumatics together to create this. Is it 5 waves all around the plunger?
It's the multiple peaks are around. The 5 waves sort of comes from the 5 levels of waves. So, you know, we have beginner waves all the way through to pro waves. 5 different levels of skill levels, I guess you could say, and they all break at the same time. But we can configure the lake in different ways. A classic lake, such as the one that we have up at Yeppoon, is actually 4 main peaks that have a left-hander and a right-hander. It's an A-frame. Each one is an A-frame peak. So you have 4 main peaks. So that's 8 main breaks, and then you have beginner waves in the white water and reforms on the inside. So you can multiply it out. So you could say we have, 8 breaks if you counted each left and each right, or it's whatever. But on the pneumatic side of things, it's actually very, very different than what classically is known as a pneumatic caisson design. Even though the word pneumatics in there, it's actually nothing alike, really.
Yeah.
And I am aware that it's been said I've never done the calcs on a pneumatic caisson myself on that one. I understand they are less efficient. The way we do it is not using pneumatics to motivate the lake water. We are using pneumatics in the more classic sense, such as a pneumatic piston. So air fluid power. So that then takes away that grossly inefficient process and replaces it with one that's, it's kind of very common system, just very big. Yes, there was some, we have a patent around an element of it, and we had to, do some interesting engineering to make it work. But really, if you look at it, it's just a pneumatic, but it's also a hydraulic system. So that's where it sort of really starts to differ. Is I looked at how we would make something go up and down in the middle of the lake, and given it's surrounded by water. Quite a long way out. It's a deep lake because we have to. We're producing such large waves, and the challenge was how do you make a machine that can do what it needs to do in the middle of a lake, And so fluid power was the answer. And so I started playing around with pneumatics, and pneumatics are fantastic. You can do so much with it, but it didn't quite do everything that I needed to. And so I looked at hydraulics, and hydraulics are fantastic, but you can't quite move fast enough with hydraulics, So
yeah.
I didn't have a solution with either one of those, but by putting them together, everything became clear. So we actually have a pneumatic over hydraulic system. So we use pneumatics to motivate a hydraulic system, and then the hydraulic piston does the raising of the CWD is our trade name for the device. It stands for concentric wave device. Plunger is common term people use.
Yeah.
So CWD is our big thing in the middle of the lake. That actually is lifted by hydraulics. Is the last thing that touches it. The pneumatics push the hydraulics push the device. So it is very, very different than a pneumatic caisson model. And I understand that sort of pneumatics have got a bit of a stigma around them because of that. And we're very, very different. So.
Yeah, one question that I have is just for the audience here is we've had a research into Surflakes, and we've seen how big this is, the CWD. How big in terms of both size and maybe weight, just to help visualize the size of this thing, because it is huge. It's so impressive to see.
Well, the device itself is 26 meters in diameter. I once worked it out, and I figured out my house would fit in there like 4 times or something. It's big. It's very big. Our lake is we can adjust lake sizes and go bigger and smaller, different shapes. But typically about 3.5 hectares. So 35,000 square meters of lake, which is of water, and then obviously the surround about it. So they're big projects, and we produce big waves, which is great. So
massive, yeah. The slab on the barrel setting is so thick. It's just like terrifying. Not terrifying, but yeah, for someone who's not like.
It is. Look, yeah. I've been surfing a long time. I'm nothing fancy, but I'm experienced. Definitely nothing fancy, but it terrifies me. It is a real challenge. It's amazing, terrified in a good way. Like it's something to aspire to. I love Occhi's Peak, and I have had a crack at the slab. Not too successfully. I made a couple, and definitely didn't make a couple. So
yeah,
I'd love to surf it at full size. I actually surfed it. We had the machine tuned down a bit, so I wasn't quite at the size that we've displayed, but even that of the video that we've displayed is not our actual final size. We're saving that one for the commercial model. Once we rebuild that site, which we're currently in the process of going through the process of. So
yeah, because what the interesting thing about your barrel and say an urban surf barrel is that's more of a training barrel, where you get a very gentle takeoff into a very thick barrel, which is nothing like the ocean at all. It's meant to train people of how to tuck in. Whereas what I see from the videos at Surflakes, it's a very ocean-like barrel. You need to know how to pop up fast. You need to know how to get into position. Not that you don't with the other wave, but it's made for the pros. Like it's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah, that slab wave. It's our name is the island slab is what that's called, and yeah, that is a pro wave. It's meant to be challenging. We're not going to frighten the pros, but it's challenging. It's fun. They keep coming back. They absolutely love it. It's great. Occhi's Peak is a lot more accessible. It's still fast to get in there. We're actually we are developing, and like I said, we can design whatever wave we want. Really, this is just our current menu that we've got on offer. We're actually designing another wave which will be similar to Occhi's, but the idea is to have it a bit more accessible. Not quite a fast. Occhi's is a hissing barrel. You got to be really quick. It's not a slab or anything, but you've got to be quick to get into it and pull in, and that's really nice and challenging. So we've actually got a wave that will be, I call it a step down from that, which would be way more accessible. So
yeah, you kind of mentioned just before on CFD modeling in terms of water. Now, for those in the engineering field, we all know CFD modeling is a very, very complex computer algorithm. It takes a lot of RAM, a lot of AVD space. What factors are you looking at when you're adjusting and setting up these new wave designs? And between having the idea and having and the modeling, how long will it take to get a design for each of the kind of formats or the slabs?
Some of them are more difficult than others. I've got to admit, it's not my primary area of knowledge. I've been around it and been involved to some degree, but no, I can't claim any expertise in that. So take my answer with a grain of salt, really. But it is different than ocean waves, and especially our lake, because it's concentric. A lot of people have said, how do you get around convex, if you like, wave to straighten out? And what we actually found was with the reef design, the wave horseshoes around and bends and actually bends back on itself so much that we had no problems with making a really fast, rippable shoulder. If you're a surfer, you understand waves refracting around into a break, and the best ones are the ones that the shoulder really stands up ahead of you down the line. It doesn't back off or fatten out in front of you. And so one of the great revelations was that, this circular wave, and if you look at it from above, it actually forms a square or a rectangle by the time it breaks. It's really cool. And so the reef, it's kind of like if you had that reef in the ocean and put an ocean wave on it, it wouldn't work. The reef is designed to work for our swell and straighten our swell around or bend our swell around so that it all works. Yeah. So there's a bit of finesse in that.
Yeah, something I find fascinating is you're using the same plunger to create different waves around it. Is that purely a bathymetry difference?
It is. Bathymetry and the depth of water over the reef, but also the distance it travels. So you could look at it because we create a wave in deep water and it comes out of shallow water and hits a reef. It's exactly like the ocean, other than how the wave was first created. Once the wave leaves our machine, we don't touch it again with the machine. We don't keep pushing it or anything like other technologies do. So as soon as it leaves the machine, it forms a natural wave and travels like a natural wave, and then hits a reef like a natural wave. So that swell, when it's generated, you could say is equal the whole way around. It is. It's completely concentric. Each break gets the same amount of energy. Each break gets the same shaped swell, but it all changes when it hits it. So the island slab is a very short travel distance from the machine, and it comes out of very deep water into very shallow water. And so you get this big heaving, really hard, fast barrel. I mean, it's like, natural waves. I'm not trying to compare it to pipeline by any means, but if you take pipeline, for example, that's a 3-second wave on most days. They take off, pull in, get spat out into the channel. It's 3 seconds, best 3 seconds you'll ever, if I could do that one day, I would be happy, So the island slab is that. It expends all its energy in a very short space of time, so you get the intensity. On the absolute opposite end of things is the beach break is what we call our it's not a beginner wave. It's a really fun wave, although it is very accessible for beginners. It's still a totally rippable turns wave. That one travels a lot further, breaks a lot, doesn't come out of deep water into shallow water so abruptly, and it peels off, and it's much, much longer. It's the same swell and the same energy, just spread over a longer period, so it doesn't expend its energy in such a violent way as the other wave. And then the other ones in between are all different varieties of it. So yeah, it's great.
So that's sort of like your intermediate sort of setting then, by the sounds of it, where someone who's looking to step up from that beginner to learn how to cut across a face, do some cutbacks and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, awesome. I suppose going back to the size of the actual CWD, it's this 23 meter long, 1,400 ton thing in the middle of a lake. I guess Surflake is very proud of how efficient it is, which is great. How do you make it so efficient using air? Like what is like how are the air losses minimized? You're talking, if I'm thinking in my head like an MGH calculation, I don't know if that's put into the formula, but the amount of mass you're driving with air, what sort of pressures are we talking to, and how are those air losses being minimized and those efficiencies being driven with the compressors?
So, the efficiency really is if you've got losses, and losses would be in our system would be from things like friction and what have you. So we have very, very low friction. Machine rolls on guides. So there's, it's a rolling wheel arrangement. So there's very, very low friction. Our piston arrangement is essentially a friction-free fluid sealing actuated piston. All of the stages in it are efficient. Compressed air is wonderful, wonderful stuff. But one of the most important things about, some of the reasons that I chose compressed air to use it, to power it, is because you can bottle it all up. You don't have to deliver your peak power at the same time as you are moving the machine. You don't have to deliver the peak power for the machine at that instant. You can have compressors running in the background, smaller compressors running on a 100% duty, charging up air receivers, and then when you want the machine to move, you can release that energy very, very rapidly. So that's a great thing for us, is that we don't have to have such large installed power we are larger because we're a larger lake, and we produce so many waves, such large waves over such a large area. So our actual number is probably larger. We're a bigger facility. But when you look at the peak power that our machine uses, the compressors are not sized for peak power. They're sized for way smaller, and we just bottle up all the air, and then when we want it to go, you let it out through valves and
hit the valve, release the valves and let it go. And one of the things I find so pretty to watch, and others might not, but for me as like a chemical process engineer, is where you have sort of the plenum where the air and the vapor is. As soon as a plunger comes back down, it forces that compression of steam, and you just see this
water vapor, not steam.
Yeah, technically, water vapor or steam. It just
steam. That's fine. I've actually had questions saying, is that really steam? And it's like, no.
It's
like breathe out on a cold day. But unfortunately, that is going to be disappearing in the commercial one. That's as much as we all love it, and some people love the noise, some people love the steam. The whole thing we did that because we were on a budget, and we didn't need, this is a prototype. We didn't dress it up. We didn't even paint it. We just did what we needed to do to prove a point. That's what that machine was for, a full scale one size thing. So it's loud and belches steam, but for the commercial one, obviously that's not acceptable in some environments. You might have people over the fence and over the back fence who don't like that it could be the visual amenity is important. So the machine and the commercial one, our commercial design that we've developed directly from all the testing we've done on that prototype, is a lot more attractive. It's going to be painted, and it's a lot lower, very, very slick looking. And the noise is has been reduced right down to almost nothing. Like the noise of the waves will be louder than the noise of the machine.
Just for the record, I love the industrial look of the pilot plant. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And it kind of worked in our favor. Like we didn't do it for the visual thing, but everyone recognizes it now. So we're kind of like, oh well, that worked out. Yeah.
Yeah. Function over form always. I think one of the questions I was really keen to know about was, obviously you guys are based in Gold Coast and the surf park is in Yeppoon. What went into deciding its location? Clearly there's going to be a lot of locational impacts, right? Lake, impacts, access to the transmission grid. What made Yeppoon the place to go?
Yeah, it's cool. That's a cool story in itself. We looked all over the country and we had a lot of interest. We had councils in various areas who wanted us to attract us to the region, offering us, $1 a year leases and all these kind of things, and almost giving land to us and things like that. The problem was there was something wrong with each one, unfortunately, either acid sulfate soils or flood prone or like just, things that made it not quite as attractive, or there was a couple of years approvals process before we could even start. Things like that, even though they were really, really generous offers and what have you, none of them were right. And then Yeppoon came up, and the thing that makes it a great story is our founder and CEO, Aaron, was born and raised in Yeppoon. Oh. And that's maybe that opened some doors for us. But so it's kind of on this, full circle, the hometown boy, done good and come back to build something in his hometown. And so the land is a wonderful, wonderful slice of land. It's a gorgeous place. It's absolutely beautiful. So it's a beautiful slice of land. There's, everything is in the right place. The rock is at the right depth. The soil's very nice, the clay, and the Livingston Shire Council were very agreeable. They said, look, it's on private land, you're leasing private land. The machine is not for commercial purposes. That's why we haven't been able to open it. It's just a test site. And so they said, we're not going to make you have any approvals. You can start digging. And so that was pretty much what made it happen. Yeah. So
that's meant to be the fact that it's from where the owner is from, and the geotech allowed for it to be built. There's so many places I can think of where we are, everything is sand underneath. So it's like the idea of building that, it just like can't imagine that would work well. But no, Sean asks a very good question, because on these locations, like I can see in the background, it's the industrial look, but you could make it very location based. If it's in a tropical place, make it a tropical theme. If it's like in a, Arctic place or a snowy place, make it a snowy theme surf park. So a question I wanted to ask and is, what does a commercial surf lakes look like? And then after you've done answering, I do have a suggestion to make for what an Aussie surf lakes could have on a commercial scale. But
yeah, cool. Look, we've just released the latest renders. The site, and in the background, our prototype site, we are now commercializing that. So it's been a long time, but we're finally at the stage where we want to change it from being a prototype site to a fully open commercial site. So we're doing that. So we've actually just done artist renders of the machine and the lake and the vision of what it is. So we could definitely supply you some of those. So you'd love to see them. They're incredible. But it's like I say, just to describe it, the machine is, as you can see in the background there, it's very tall. It comes down almost to about that level now, if you can, don't think.
Yeah, wow, yeah, so half its height.
Yeah, we cut most of the top off it. That's one of the things about prototyping at absolute full scale, is you get to, you go in a little bit conservative in some ways. We built it a lot taller than we needed just in case. Some things we underbuilt, and we broke things and fixed them and strengthened them and learned how to build the machine properly. That's the whole point. So the bowl itself, the CWD bowl itself, is largely unchanged. It will obviously be painted and a lot more attractive. And we have a really nice architectural shroud over the center of the machine. It looks really nice. You'll see that in the renders. Does that answer your question? I think that was that what you asked? Yeah.
I think that so that answers the question in terms of the actual CWD, but in a commercial setting, what sort of facilities do you see like a park having, like pools, accommodation, facilities, shops, like bars?
Yeah, and that's one of the things about our technology is I mean, we're probably about 4 times bigger than anybody else in terms of lake area, and that affords such a massive area of absolute beachfront, something like 800 meters or something, depending on the lake size. So we do attract big projects, because people, even though our pool entirely can stand alone, very, very profitable as a standalone facility, the type of developers we're talking to are like, whoa, look what we can do around here. So, there's some of our licensees have got ideas for massive hotels and, all sorts of facilities. Actually, what we're doing in Yeppoon, because we want to get it open, we don't want to, have the delays and the time and the cost to do such a massive development. Even though we have full approval for a big development, we are doing a really grassroots, smaller development. So it'll be very nice, very elegant, but it's not a full-on thing. So it'll be, smaller cabins dotted around, a nice, central area for a restaurant area and things like that. And then, cabanas and things around the lake. It'll be,
lovely.
Really, really nice, but not a big full-blown development at this stage. Stages 2, 3, 4, and 5 could be, but at the moment we're doing it a lot more simple. But it depends on the licensee. It depends who's building it and where they're building it. You imagine some of the places in the world where these projects can be, like the Middle East, Dubai and Abu Dhabi and all that. Imagine what they're going to build. It's going to be incredible. So can't wait for those ones.
So I'll get into sort of a suggestion I would have for an Aussie themed surf lakes first. But the first question I've got to ask is, are you a rugby or rugby league fan?
Oh, look, I'm actually a New Zealander originally, so so no, I do watch rugby, not a huge amount. Surfing kind of is all I really care about these days.
Yeah.
So no, I do. I'll watch the rugby when the big games are on, but.
Yeah. So something we've got in Australia in Sydney is something called aqua rugby, where there's like a big body of water and they've got this like grass, like synthetic grass field flotation
platform
device
on water.
So where I got this idea from is I surfed in Waco back in March at the pool over in Waco. Awesome pool. And they've got like slides and they've got like wakeboarding parks around like the surf lagoon. So they've made it a bit of a water park. And I was thinking to myself, if we had like an Aussie wave pool that was sort of that sort of style where it's in the middle of nowhere in some respects, what would a water park look like? And I was thinking that'd be so cool to have like an aqua rugby park right behind the surf lake. So you got surfers and footy players of all levels coming. It'd just be the most Aussie place. And then go to the bar after for a couple of beers. So I just thought I'd throw that one out there. If that ever gets done in 10, 20 years, someone can be like, oh, that podcast we did with those engineering rascals back in the day. What do you think of that?
Actually, this has opened up a thought for me. Is you see surfing competitions, and over the course of the day, the waves change, and so the opportunities to each surfer can change. Is Surf Lakes potentially a future location for a competitive ground, in the sense of you could have the same wave, same time?
Oh, we'd hope so. And look, as soon as we get the Yeppoon, it's Surf Lakes Capricorn Coast, as soon as we get that open, I will imagine we will be fielding all sorts of inquiries for competitions. You will be absolutely open to that. Look at competition in pools is an interesting one. Like there's other pools that have been running competitions at varied kind of reception and success. It's still jury's still out on that one. I feel like we've got a very good possibility of being a fun contest. I mean, the variety of waves and just how people want to see challenging waves. We've got that. I think we could, for me, one of the most important things is quantity of waves, giving competitors enough opportunity to, like not just a couple of waves. If they could, because then they just safety surf them and you don't really get them, they just want to complete a wave so they get a score. Whereas if you had lots of waves, people could really let loose and do some exciting stuff because, the issue with falling goes away because you're like, oh, I'll get another go, I'll get another. So you'd actually get high performance surfing. So we'd be able to supply that and, a good variety of challenging waves. So I think it could be really good.
I would agree because I think the Surf Lakes model is the only technology I would see that could produce 10 to 15 foot faces in a commercial setting. If I think of the other technologies out there, it doesn't seem like something that could be made easily economically viable. you could still do it, but there'd need to be a lot of thought into it. Whereas what I can see with the big plunger in the middle, just increase the height of it, look at the hydraulics, and, you're making 10, 15 foot faces quite easily, like compared to the others.
Yeah.
We are actually developing that. We have, what you see on our screen, we call that our XL model. It's kind of that is our, like, our main size. It's not, it's not the normal, that's our normal model, but we've called it the XL model, mainly to give us some room below so that we can go down. So we could have a large model, which is, more compact, smaller waves, smaller footprint, but we can also go up. So we've got a double XL model in the works. And we really hope somebody wants to build one of those someday, because one of the amazing things about the technology I'm really, really proud about is that it is entirely scalable. We don't hit ceilings, that are hard to get through. Yeah, of course, everything gets bigger and more power and more expensive. That's a given. But there is no, physicality about it. No, like limiting, ceiling because of something. No, you can just keep going bigger and bigger and bigger. Like I always say, I think there's got to be a limit somewhere, right? Probably that limit would be just sheer, size of the project, or can you find a crane big enough in the world to install such a monstrous thing? We'd run into those problems before the technology falls over. The technology can keep going up until the limits of sanity, really.
Yeah, there's no constructability problem that can't be solved.
No. Just give it enough time and money.
There's a where there's a will, there's a way, and if somebody wants to do that project, we can do it.
So I guess focusing more on the now, you mentioned you're pretty keen to get this out to the public. What are the commissioning challenges, I guess, you're facing at the moment, and the biggest ones that you're like, all right, we need to overcome this, and how's that looking in terms of overcoming them? And
well, at the moment because what we're doing at our prototype site, rolling that into a commercial site, we're not going to just scrap everything and start again. A lot of the stuff that is there is absolutely fine. Yes, there's many, many, many components that we've redesigned to the full commercial. You take the opportunity. That's why you do it. You take the opportunity to redesign all the things that need to be redesigned. A lot of it doesn't. A lot of it's right in the first place, and so we want to reuse it. So we're just going through a whole big feasibility study on what components can we use. We've been, inspecting and testing, doing the engineering for what it would take to refurbish these items. Do we unbolt that and take it off site to blast and paint, or what can we do in situ? How can we, all that kind of thing. So we're at that stage at the moment, and we've also just started going out to the market for to raise capital for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
So, like, to sum up Surflakes, what then is the ultimate goal of a Surflakes park? Is it to be more of a gym for surfers of all levels to come and test their reps and improve, or is it more of a wide range of people, from people who have never even seen a surfboard all the way to your Kelly Slater and your Gabriel Medina type surfers, to come and really push themselves as well? Or is it a bit of both, where it's also the gym but also the commercial environment where people can come and have fun, go for a drink afterwards, and all that sort of stuff?
It is absolutely all of the above. And one of the things I absolutely love about our technology is that you have all the multiple waves all breaking at the same time, so you can dedicate one break to a professional training session, whilst a corporate group could be hiring out the next break, and then a surf school could be on the next break, and then ticket holding customers can be on the other. You're not limited to, okay, the pool is only for one thing at one time. You can have all of it all going on at the same time. And what's going to be the most main use of it? Which one is going to be our biggest customers? Something I don't know. All I know is that I'm going to be one of the biggest.
You're going to be one of them.
I think the real winner is going to be the average surfer. It's mind blowing. But people who froth over surfing and just want to go get good waves, people who, like myself, who, work long hours, have a amazing young family, all that kind of stuff. By surfing time, I'd love to surf more. It's really hard to fit it in. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm the customer. I'm the one who's really going to benefit from this is just being able to go surf perfect waves that on my own schedule, when I can, but take the family with me. They're going to be the real winners. But it absolutely has application from pros all the way through to beginners and everything in between. It's really cool.
Well, seeing that you're buying what you're selling, it sounds like it's a pretty good product. I also saw it too, like you can have like over 100 people. What's the maximum theoretical size of surfers you can have in the water at one time?
So we're saying 200 surfers in the water. Ooh. Now, the way we do that is, well, firstly, we have the 4 breaks, so you split up. But we have a system where you're in groups and you cycle through. Because our wave frequency is so high, so many waves, you don't actually have to catch a wave in every set. And so you can cycle through, and one of the one group will ride that set, and they'll go to the back of it, and you each move through one place at a time, and that's absolutely great. You'll still get your waves in an hour, but one of the coolest things about the pool, and I didn't even realize this until we started surfing it, and I figured out how fun it is it's actually like you're sitting in the channel at a reef break. Or like you remember when you paddle back out and you watch your mate, coming by, barrel on the wave past you. It's like that. You get to be engaged in the action, even though it's your turns in the next set. You're actually engaged in the action while you're waiting. You're in the water, in the channel, basically looking down at. And one of the coolest things ever for me was I was surfing Occhi's Peak, and you share the 2 waves, Occhi's Peak and the island, the channel that they share, both groups of surfers paddle out that same channel.
Oh, that makes sense.
You can look at both waves. And so we had pro surfers, Morgan Siblick and Ryan Callanan up at the time, and they were absolutely owning it on the island slab. And I got to sit there and watch, I've had surfers surfing on the Gold Coast. You see a pro surfer come by quite regularly. You don't ever get to sit there on the shoulder, looking down the barrel, seeing what they do. So for me, that was one of the coolest things. Yeah. It's just watch these guys absolutely take it to pieces. It was really cool.
Yeah, I never thought of that. But for people like myself and Sean, we started surfing during the first lockdown, when all the gyms were closed. How can we keep our fitness? And the first thing I thought to myself was I regret not doing this when I was 4, because you try and learn on the beach, right? And especially from where we're from, our local break is a very professional type. If you're a beginner, it's hard to access the waves. Someone sees you're a beginner, it's like I'm dropping in on that person because I know they're going to fall off. It's just the nature of what it is. No shame on them. I understand it, being that experience. But the wave pools have totally taken that aspect out of it. So even myself, I feel like what I've been learning at the wave pools is something I would learn within a 6-month period on the beach, if not more. So yeah,
100%. Sorry.
I was going to say I'm keen to see you in the lineup eventually, mate. When everything's become commercialized.
Yeah, look, that's what we want more than anything in the world, is to be able to let people in and surf. We just haven't been able to, because it's an R&D site. We literally are not allowed to have paying customers at that site. So to roll it over a commercial one, we can actually get everyone in there and show them how good it is. It's going to be so cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to us about the technology and Surflakes. That sort of wraps up the technical discussion. In terms of our guests, with what we do as the engineering sort of dads cohort, is we like discussing things from a general point of view, from engineering, making engineering accessible and fun, because as you know, if you're passionate about what you do, the result is always good. I was talking to a colleague about this, it's like going to a good restaurant, right? If that person is cooking with love, you will taste that in the food, and engineering in some respects is the same. So a lot of our videos are centered around, hey, engineering doesn't have to be physics and maths and stuff and this boring stuff. It's actually fun. So we like to generalize things a little bit. So we always ask our guests towards the end some general sort of questions, and I'll let Sean sort of roll with the first one.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll start quite optimistically. What are you excited about in the future? And I think I might know the answer to it, but
and it can be anything, by the way. It doesn't have to be related to surfing, but I think it might have a feeling it might be. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look, just getting our first commercial park open to the public has got to be. But I'm excited about what the next 10, 15 years are for my career. I mean, just it's going to be really, really cool when we're opening these up all around the world, and I get to go there, take the family with me probably, and commission sites around the world. That's longer term. That's what I'm really, really excited about, because it'll be
that's going to be awesome. We wish you the best of luck with that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And I guess it could be a bit of a similar question, but what is something you would say that keeps you up at night, where you're thinking, oh crap, that's something I can't really stop thinking about? And it can, again, be anything related to your engineering career or surfing or just anything in general.
Well, I don't know. I don't mind waking up in the middle of the night and thinking about things. It kind of works. Like you've got nothing else to do, and you sit there and I've actually nutted out a lot of stuff in the middle of the night just waking up. So waking up in the middle of the night, as long as you don't wake up in a cold sweat, I think you're all right. Quite often a lot of things come to me in the middle of the night, and it's good. So, but I don't really have any concerning things that keep me up. I'm always wrestling with challenges. I enjoy it. That's what engineering is to me. Or my style of it, my role in engineering is finding solutions, finding ways. Inventing things is just what I want to do all day, every day. It's so fun.
Yeah.
So waking up in the middle of the night and inventing something, that's not a bad thing. Yeah.
That's why we love asking this question, because you get like very well-versed answers like this.
I think it's the first one we've had where it's like, no, I like the challenge. I like the idea of potentially being scared of a problem because it's just a solution that hasn't been found yet. That's a really good perspective that I'm going to take on board for sure.
Oh, look, I'm not going to pretend I wasn't terrified at some point along the journey. There's been some big leaps to
I can
take.
imagine, yeah.
Definitely things that have kept me up at night, but not at the moment. No, we know what we're doing. We've got a really, really good pathway, and it's a really, really good commercial design that we've arrived at all this way down the track. So feeling pretty confident, which is good.
That's awesome. We have one final question, and it's what advice would you give a younger version of yourself? Say you found 16-year-old you, and you had to give him one piece of advice. You've time traveled back. What would it be?
Oh, absolutely. You don't actually have to be necessarily the smartest or the highest aptitude about something, or it's actually just applying yourself to something and working hard at something. And it's amazing. You get there. Like it's strange. You don't actually have to do anything revolutionary. It's just a whole lot of pieces in the puzzle. Keep chipping away at it, and you get there. Like I've said this a few times to people that I found one of the hardest things about the whole thing was I wasn't sure whether I was able to do it. I was like, oh, can I? There's a lot of smart engineers out there. Why, am I good enough to do this? I was like never quite figured it out. But because surfing is what I love doing and engineering is what I love doing, I wasn't going to let that opportunity slip. So anything else, if I hadn't been quite so into it or interested, I don't know if I would have had the drive to keep going. But just the realization that, actually, you can do it. It's just a matter of, wanting to and keep going, and you'll get there. It's, you don't actually have to be brilliant. So it's good.
You just got to want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just got to want it. I mean, just keep going.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Like, you don't need this $40,000 degree to be a good engineer. You just need to have a vision and a passion and figure out the steps in between by communicating with people and talking to people who have done similar things. And yeah, like you said, the piece of the puzzle is probably vital to any engineering problem. We work in teams and everyone is well versed in one thing or another, and connecting the stories, connecting the picture is where it all comes together.
Even circling back to this story, it started with just skipping rocks across the water, thinking, this is an idea.
Yeah.
Not having the expertise to get to where it is now, but realizing if I keep pushing, we can get there. And looking at it where it is now, it's incredible. From an idea to reality.
Yeah, well done, guys. Very keen to see this become commercialized, and wish yourself, Kit, and the team all the best.
Yeah, we'll definitely give you guys a visit for sure.
Yeah, can't wait. Oh, mate, it's all happening, so we're pretty excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us, and thank you so much for sacrificing a bit of your Friday. Hopefully you get out and get some beers.